This is Talk to Seattle, and I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode of the show, I have Matthew Perkins, who is running for Seattle City Council in the 2nd District. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jason. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe your background and experience?
Sure. Lived in Seattle going on 7 years now. I'm a licensed massage therapist. Politics is not something I was ever really interested in, or driven towards, not a goal of mine. However, with recent issues within the city over the last couple years, issues with our city council, residents feeling ignored, constituents feeling like unless you're an activist, your voice isn't heard in the city, that I hit a breaking point where it was run for city council or sit on my butt and continue to complain. And I got tired of sitting and complaining and doing nothing.
So it sounds like it's mostly about frustration that led you to want to run for this office in particular.
Yes, that's a very accurate way to put it, really. It's more of, I live in Pioneer Square. Obviously, we have a lot of crime, safety issues within small businesses here in Pioneer Square International District, and we kind of feel ignored and left out, especially here in District 2 and the City Council in general, of we're not really accounted for, we're not really taken into consideration when things happen in District 2, kind of the northern tip and ignored.
And could you tell me a little bit about your district?
Sure. District 2 is one of the most diverse districts here in Seattle. Population-wise, ethnicity, home ownership, it's a very split district that consists of a lot of great neighborhoods. So like I said, from Pioneer Square and International District, south to SoDo, Georgetown, Beacon Hill, Rainier Beach, all of these neighborhoods, we have housing, industrial, business, everything kind of going on here that some districts, a lot of neighborhoods have just housing, just business, things like that. We're a very diverse group of the city that has a lot of needs and concerns and can't really campaign or run off one issue because we have so many different things going on within District 2. You have to be open to a lot of other possibilities, a lot of groups that you might not have those same concerns going on in the other districts here in Seattle.
And what are some of the biggest challenges facing your district in particular?
Right now, while crime as a whole has gone down, mostly in Seattle, it is not down in District 2. A lot of our neighborhoods, crime is up, and up a substantial amount. Housing affordability is a massive issue in District 2. We have a lot of people being pushed out of the neighborhoods, can't afford to live here anymore. We have a lot of businesses that feel that it's not safe to keep their businesses in this area anymore. They're losing money. We have, at least in Pioneer Square, most of the homeless shelters within the city. We have a couple encampments. Neighborhoods feel left out when those conversations come to them of, have we actually reached out and worked with our constituents, with our neighbors within this community to explain what we're doing as a city, to listen to their concerns, and to give people a voice within their government. And
for the city as a whole, what do you think are the biggest issues that we're facing?
As a whole, obviously, we have the homeless crisis that we're facing. While I'm a firm believer and I agree that affordable housing does play a part in that, I feel as a whole, as a city, we're not looking at one of the deeper rooted issues, the bigger issue of mental health treatment and substance addiction treatment that we're not acknowledging. We're not spending money on that. We're not putting more resources into helping individuals that, while yes, they need housing and we need to work strongly on that, there are other issues going on too that we need to provide them services to help them take care of themselves, be safe, and move out of homelessness. Obviously, the opioid epidemic going on right now is a massive issue. It's something very personal to me. There's transportation, there's the head tax, how we can work with businesses within the city. Those are some major core issues that I think we should be spending our resources on right away. And that as a city, we need to go, well, we have hundreds and a bunch of smaller issues going on, and I understand that. We have to go, what are the core issues affecting Seattle right now as a whole in masses, and we need to deal with those first.
And how can the city help homeless folks?
Obviously, like I said, I support fully spending more money, more resources on free, on-demand mental health treatment, long-term substance addiction, substance abuse treatment, rehabilitation. We need to spend money on city-run shelters to get these people in a safe, secure environment where they can get help. Personally, putting someone in a tiny house or in an encampment that the city's approved it's not helping them. We need to understand that one of the first steps is safe housing, and we need to work on that. We can stop spending money on groups that aren't doing best efforts to get people into safe permanent housing and redirect that money, those services to groups that are. I also think while we need to help these people, we also have to look at the business side and the resident side of safety is still a concern there too. We need more officers. We need more community policing and community engagement to try to rebuild the bridge between our police department, our neighborhoods and communities to regain some trust and try to show that, we're not out here being horrible people. We're not out here just to arrest criminals, but also to prevent crime and build an engagement with the community so people feel safe again with their officers and they feel comfortable. And if there's an issue, that they can talk to them and they're not going to be assaulted or arrested or ignored.
Another big issue facing the city right now is transportation. What can the city do to help our transportation system?
Transportation's a massive issue right now. Obviously, anyone that has to get around the city at all understands that. There are issues with people that choose to bike. There are issues with cars. Of course, there's massive issues with public transportation. I try to tell most people that while it is something obviously we definitely need to work with. We, as a city, also need to realize we've kind of put ourselves into a hole. We've built around it and created a problem with public transportation that it's going to be very difficult to fix, if not impossible in some areas. And so we need to start looking at other ways to relieve the stress of congestion, other ways to get people in and out of the city, moving around the city in a safe way that typically other cities we'd build more roads. That's not an option anymore. So I'd like to work with that stuff. I'd like to work with the transportation and go, what new means can we have? How can we proactively get more bus lines that are running on a constant basis, that are reliable? How can we try to transition the city as a whole into using more public transportation, spreading that out so areas of the city aren't locked off from that? The light link rail is a great use of public transportation, but unless you're going on one route right now, you're kind of locked off. West Seattle, Ballard, Capitol Hill finally has a small station in it, but we need to be able to connect all of our communities through a type of public transportation that is quick, affordable, and reliable to get people off cars, off congestion and traffic in downtown and our neighborhoods.
And what can the city do to help improve housing affordability?
Housing affordability is a massive issue right now. I think we should be working with builders, holding them responsible. I don't feel that the mandatory housing affordability went far enough. I personally believe that if we're building new buildings, we should require X amount of units to be affordable housing, whether there shouldn't be a fine. There should be, you're building this or you're not. We have to work with them on how we can make that possible, whether it be through tax incentives, whether it be through contingencies to work with them to make that possible. We also have to look at our zoning and permitting code and realize that it's horrible. It needs to almost be scrapped completely and redone, and to make it easier for us to build, to make housing available, so people aren't spending years and years in the permitting and construction process before we even break ground on a property.
We live in very polarized times. How would you as a city leader work to bring people together?
It's a great question. Right now, obviously, we are in a very interesting part in politics in Seattle. We have a lot of groups that believe one way or the other, a lot of strong opinions. My belief is I want to work with the people. I want to talk to the constituents. I speak to a lot of constituents here in District 2 who feel ignored, who feel left out, who feel like their voices aren't heard, their concerns they're not listened to, they're not taken into account. And whether I agree with someone or not, if we can't sit down and work with someone and talk to them and have a civil conversation and try to work together, nothing's going to change. We've been doing the same thing over and over in our city council for the city for years, and the problems are only getting worse. And at some point we have to go, enough's enough. Bring everyone to the table, whether we agree with them or not. Everyone should have a voice. Everyone should feel heard. Everyone should be able to work together to try to get the best outcome to help our city.
And if people want to learn more about your campaign, where should they go?
Sure, they can follow me on Facebook. Just look up Matthew Perkins. It's the first one. You can also go to www.accountabilityforseattle. That will link to my Facebook and Twitter. That'll have my campaign page. Any other information they want, they can shoot me a message, email me, call me. I want to speak to everyone in District 2 and Seattle as a whole, hear what their concerns are, and try to work with everyone to help make the city a better, safer place for everyone that lives here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. You have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Talk to Seattle, and I've been your host, Jason Rigden. If you want to support the show, please go to talktoseattle.com/support.